Forspoken has been a mess for Square Enix, and every time I think there's nothing else to discuss, news drops about this game. The studio behind it is being shut down, player numbers on Steam are abysmal, and now they have come out and admitted how terribly this game did for them because Square Enix is saying the sales were lackluster and its reception challenging. I have a bunch of different things to show off though, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon or a supporter via YouTube memberships. So, I wanted to start off with this IGN article. It says the developers will be absorbed back into Square Enix later this year. Square Enix has conceded that sales of its action role-playing game Forspoken fell below its expectations following the title's January 23rd release on PlayStation 5 and PC earlier this year. And we've already known that the game fell below their expectations just by how they have reacted online over the past nearly 2 months, okay? You wouldn't shut down a studio if you were confident in their future. This game went on sale 2 weeks after release, and of course, all of the user reviews for this game were abysmal, and they were silent on sales, and they were silent on, like, numbers regarding like playtime. Usually when a game does fantastic, companies say how many millions of minutes are put into a game and how many hours on average players put into titles, but they did none of that for this game. It says, reviews of Forspoken, which were released on January 24th, have been challenging, said Square Enix's president and representative director. However, the game also has received positive feedback on its action features, including its parkour and combat capabilities, so it has yielded results that will lead to improvement of our development capabilities of other games in the future. Now, to me, this is like a little bit of coping because they're basically trying to say that while a lot of it was negative, we did receive some positive feedback, but judging by scores on things like Metacritic, I definitely don't agree with that. As you can see, the user scores are at a 1.8 for the PC version, and the PlayStation 5 version is at a 3.5. I don't really see anything with this game that is positive, that was praised. I have looked at a lot of the feedback on social media, and I have not really seen this happening. I said initially, a year ago when they showed this game, the action did look pretty good, but unfortunately, this game also had some technical problems at launch, and that's why people were not praising the potential this title's combat had. I think that they are definitely trying to make it seem like it wasn't as much as a failure by saying that there have been a lot of positive reviews and there has been a lot of positive feedback on specific features, primarily because I haven't seen that positive feedback. So despite this positive note, he admitted that sales of the game have been lackluster and that there was considerable downside risk to our FY 2023 earnings. The concession follows an announcement from earlier this month that Forspoken developer Luminous Productions, founded in 2018, would be folded back into Square Enix effective on May 1st. And yes, clearly they did not have a lot of hope with this studio and these individuals going forward because Forspoken was such a massive failure. I mean, as it says, it was founded in 2018 and they were really hyping the studio up. They said that they were going to create new, unique experiences, and they had a lot of plans for this studio, and yeah, now they're being shut down because their first game was such a disaster. I also think that using words like lackluster mean, yeah, it did really bad, but we don't want to admit just how bad it did, but we can tell. I mean, it sold terribly because of all of the things that have happened after launch. And it is sad because I do like new experiences. I want to see new IPs created, but unfortunately Forspoken just went off the deep end. It wasn't what players were expecting. We don't want cringeworthy dialogue and poorly written characters and just a it felt like generic fantasy setting. They did try with this title, but clearly not hard enough. And as you can see, even the people who purchased this game, who tried to give it a chance, were not very happy with it. The critics did give it a very generous 63. I think that the critics did praise the combat and say that's, it's one saving grace. So I think that is more of what Matsuda is saying when he's referring to positive feedback regarding the combat, but players clearly did not feel the same. I don't want to sit here and read too many of these because I have gone through these a couple of times, but as you can see, lots of zeros, lots of ones and twos, people just saying it is a giant cash grab. Utter catastrophe. This game is Game of the Year, worst of the worst. Why did the management think that this was a good game? Bad game with a bad narrative, boring as hell, etc. Lame combat, seriously unlikable characters, and an incoherent story, all made for a very poor outing by Square. So many people were hopeful for this title because it was supposed to be new and unique and exciting, and unfortunately, it disappointed everybody. Even the combat they claim was praised is being roasted here. One of the worst games I have ever played, period. It's a lackluster world, frustrating controls, unresponsive and unsatisfying combat, old Assassin's Creed graphics, and poor optimization for that cringe and not interesting story. People just saying it is not a good game all around. And I have said this, I will probably play this when it's $5 in the clearance section because there's no way I'm going to spend $50, $60, or $70 on this title. I have to, unfortunately, talk a lot about new games that release that do not deserve their price tags, and this is yet another to add to the list. Heading back to the IGN article, it says Luminous Productions is meanwhile equipped with not only the AAA title development capabilities, but also technical expertise in areas such as game engine development, said Square Enix following the announcement. Prior to being reabsorbed, though, the developer announced that it would use its remaining time working on a patch to improve the game's overall performance and developing the DLC in Tanto We Trust, which is on track for release this summer. And they did actually just release a patch for Forspoken, and they are talking about releasing a couple more, and as it says, developing the DLC, so I have to give them some kind of credit that they're not just outright abandoning this game, because of course it does set a pretty bad precedent when a company like Square Enix releases a title and then after only 2 months of it releasing, them completely dropping it and abandoning it, because we don't want games to just be abandoned even if they do have problems, because there are people out there who played this, spent their money on it, and want the DLC. I personally don't know if they will actually release the DLC. They're saying they're going to, so we'll have to see, but yeah, they just created a really, really bad experience, and now they are getting folded back into Square Enix. And of course, they are now finally admitting that these sales were lackluster and its reception was challenging. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this and found it important and informative, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.